In this woman's house, they found 30 babies, and after a while, the whole world was shocked by the details of a woman's incredible work with abandoned children. When this was revealed, she was called a hero there. Lao Zhan Yang is now 89 years old and suffers from severe kidney disease. She was discovered caring for more than 30 abandoned Chinese children on the streets in the eastern province of a Chinese province. She survives by collecting and recycling garbage. Outside her humble shack, smoke from a stove was rapidly escaping through an opening in the door. The temperature inside the unheated hut is about 10 degrees below zero, even though it's midday. One day in late March, Yang was lying quietly on a single bed with 3 cotton quilts that have lost their color after many washings and was looking at a nearby railway track. The 89-year-old recalled the cold winter day when she and her husband picked up some garbage outside the train station and came across an abandoned baby, which would be the first of many more children in their care. The child was practically dead, lying in a corner of the station. Although several passengers had noticed the baby, none of them offered help. On the contrary, she did not hesitate. She took the child in her arms and carried him home as if she were his mother. People who adopt several children, especially those with physical disabilities, are often poor and uneducated. They do not think about the challenges that may arise and are motivated by only one goal: to save a life. The baby girl who was discovered at the train station was healthy despite the terrible state in which she was found. She was given the name Ji Zhan Yang, which is a combination of her husband's surname and hers, and a word that means as pretty as a fairy. She was the first of many foster children that she and her husband would have. Over the years, they adopted and cared for about 30 abandoned babies over the years, although about 12 of them died in infancy. She has lost count of how many youngsters have passed through her door. At one point, she only had 1 child to care for. Most of the newborns this mother picked up were at the last gasp and on the verge of death. Her intensive care saved them. Since the 1990s, her name has become so well known in the city, and individuals have ended up leaving newborns outside her door. Her eldest biological daughter, Xin Yang, expressed her thoughts. This is all due to the lack of control and oversight. According to China's Ministry of Civil Affairs, China had about 615,000 orphaned and abandoned children in January, but only 109,000 of them were under the care of any state institution. Yang's family is one of hundreds taking care of newborns and abandoned children. Since January last year, when 7 children died in a fire at an unregistered orphanage in Lancaster County, Renan Province, the unofficial adoption of orphaned and abandoned children has been the subject of heated public debate. The risks of unsafe abortions and the heated public debate. The risks of private donation have come to light due to the lack of official supervision of orphaned and abandoned children. People are now calling on the government to help good-hearted adopters, and MP Gyro Pim has advocated amending the adoption law with the aim of making it easier for families to adopt orphaned and abandoned children with physical disabilities. During this year's National Chinese People's Congress, and also during the meetings of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, it was expressed that official adoption should be respected and legal, according to the Minister of Civil Affairs at the annual session of the NPC. His proposal was accepted, but no other proposal was taken. According to the national survey conducted by the Ministry of Civil Affairs, this year about 10,000 abandoned orphan children were recently adopted through an unauthorized process instead of being adopted through the Child Welfare Department. 25% of these 10,000 were adopted directly by individual families, and the rest with the help of some religious organization, and all outside the official government system. He said the ministry will work with these families and privately run institutions to ensure that all informally adopted children receive proper care supervised by the government, and that those who cannot afford to raise the children they have adopted receive financial assistance. While the ministry is proposing to revise adoption standards to increase child welfare, it is working on a proposal for a new child welfare system that would allow the adoption of children who have been adopted by the government. Many Chinese families had more than one child 50 or 60 years ago. According to a Civil Affairs Bureau official, Some did not want to be identified because people's standard of living was not as good as it is now. Some people abandoned newborns with physical deformities. Many girls were born with physical deformities, and many healthy girls were also abandoned because many parents still saw a male child as a source of wealth for the family. Many children were also abandoned in later years due to illness or illegitimacy. More than 400 official adoptions were arranged by the Civil Affairs Office in 2018, many of them for families with reproductive problems. Most of the babies are abandoned at train stations or near hospitals. In 2007, Yang discovered a toddler in a shoebox in a dumpster near the hospital. The umbilical cord and placenta were still attached to the child, and he had a head the size of an orange. He was 2 months premature. There he told her that when the locals examined the half-dead child, they claimed that only Buddha could help him. But her care and love saved him. Later, she named the baby Zin. For weeks, the mother did not go out to pick up the garbage. She brought powdered milk and fed Zin just a few drops every hour while holding him close to keep him warm. Yang expressed her thoughts and was surprised to see the black spots on his body fade over time. Adoption rules in China are very strict, according to 1992 legislation, as the parents must be childless, 35 years old or older, and able to raise and teach the child. In addition, anyone who adopts an abandoned child, a child of unknown parents, or an orphan in a social welfare institution must register the adoption with the local civil affairs department. You have not registered any of the children you have adopted because you do not understand the rules correctly. Fortunately, Yang's acts of generosity have been recognized by the community, and 4 of the children she has adopted were granted registration with a special permission from the local government. She allowed other families to adopt the children informally, and there is no record here whether these other adopters registered the children with the authorities. Problems that were not foreseen. Although no one questioned Yang's intentions, her acts of compassion unintentionally produced problems for the children. Children whose parents abandoned them but then changed their minds have little chance of being reunited with children who are informally adopted. They have not been registered persons, will not have their names disclosed in public as required by law, which means that even if the real parents wish to reunite with their son or daughter, it will be almost impossible to do so. A Beijing lawyer specializing in child trafficking cases agrees with this assertion. Moreover, he has not been forced to make difficult decisions about who should adopt the children due to lack of knowledge about the latter. Adopters are couples seeking children who are already in the care of others but have not been in danger. It is in this case that many child traffickers sought these people by posing as a real couple. Xing Yang says that her mother often supported her decisions simply by observing the behavior of the couple who came to her. She rarely had a chance to check on the child's welfare if she had suspicions about the couple's motives. The adoption was kept secret by many individuals, and some even moved to a new city to start a new life, Xian says. And the problems don't stop there despite being able to contact the children. People like Yang don't have the rights or expertise to supervise adoptive families. Zhen Han, a lawyer, said this form of adoption is a large part of the percentage of cases and should be included in the civil affairs management system. He did not specify that any solution should include legislation that will highlight the fundamental rights of the children, as well as a clear statement of the duties and responsibilities of the new guardian. Despite the legal actions of the law, things seem to have turned out well for their children, 14 of whom were adopted by other families and had a good education. 3 others who grew up in Lao's home now have their own families, but still call her at least once a week. As soon as Zin turns 6, she stays with the family. One of her granddaughters says, "The people concerned should not have to bear the whole burden of caring for orphans and abandoned babies. It is a great hardship, especially for families like mine." But who can stop this system? A controversial rule has prevented more than 400 million births in that country. China's controversial birth control program was put in place in 1978 to ease the pressure of a growing population and limit resources. The law prohibits urban couples from having more than one child, and those who break the rules must pay a fine. But those who abide by it can receive a certificate and also various financial benefits, such as extra pay each year until the child turns 14. Rural couples, couples without siblings, and ethnic minorities are among those exempted from the policy. Foreigners living in China and residents of Hong Kong and Macau are also exempt from the regulations. although some rural areas of the country allow couples to have a second child if they give birth to a girl who is abandoned or, in extreme cases, killed. There are many parents who feel obliged to produce a male heir and abandon their daughters, as the common thinking is that a man can work and produce more than a woman. Whatever the situation, no more children are allowed if the second is also from a girl, so it is extremely unusual to find a family with more than 2 children, according to the policy. According to the Chinese government, the strategy has probably prevented more than 400 million births in all these years. In 2010, it was reported that for every 120 boys born, no girls were born. That is, 20% more boys in the country, while in the rest of the world, this percentage is half. The program has been denounced by critics in China and around the world. They accuse the government of forcing abortions, even though it is against the law in the country. Female infanticide and the lack of female birth records are often considered suspicious, especially in the country's rural communities. The country has a basic human right to decide the number of children and the spacing between their births freely and responsibly. This was established in an international human rights convention 10 years before the regulations were implemented. Despite this, an independent poll in 2008 revealed that 76% of the Chinese population disapproved of this law. Thus ends one more of our sensational videos here on our channel, and if you are new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for being with us. See you soon.